I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Unleashing AI for Better Marketing and Audience Engagement. This webinar is brought to you by Renewed and co-sponsored by our longtime Renewed community supporters, Tom Pines and Mitch Eisen from Contentware, and from our new friend and Renewed supporter, Erica Solom-Wrench of Raza.io. My name is Kim Matthews. Sorry, can you guys mute if you're not speaking, please? Okay. All right. I'm the Interim Executive Director of Renewed, and I'm going to be your host for today's event. If you have questions for today's speakers, I'm certain that you will, please submit them via the chat. And we're actually going to start our discussion today with an open Q&A. I feel like all we have is questions at this point and stage of AI. And we've got access here to 3 professionals that have been in the world of AI for quite a while now. They're immersed in this every day. So please fire away on all those questions. There is no such thing as too basic or too complex at this point with AI. After the presentation, you'll have access to the recording at renewed.net/resources, and I'll also send you guys an email with the recording once it's posted. And then we also encourage you to invite your colleagues, contacts, industry friends who you think would benefit from Renewed to join us. They can join for free, attend events like this. And then also we've got the summit starting in exactly 1 month from today. So we hope to see you all there. If you want to share takeaways from today's session on social, we do ask that you use the hashtag Renewed. And now let's get started. So Mitch, I'd like to start with you. Do you want to kind of just kick us off, give us a framework for this discussion, and then over to Erica. And again, we'll just kind of get started on all these questions we have about AI.
Great. Happy to be with everyone this morning, this afternoon, if you're in London. So here's the thing. You hear something that says, this time is different. And if you're charged with bringing new tech into the organization, those have got to be the 4 scariest words you're hearing. This time is different. We've all watched this movie before. Augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain, crypto. No, this time is really different. Web 3.0. Every time there's this new technological advancement, everyone says this time is different. And now here we are, here I am saying it once again. This time is really, really different. And so I think we're in a moment right now, okay? I think we're in a moment where no one really knows the outcome, where all this is going. We don't know where it's going. I think if I can leave you with one main point from this session is it's not the specifics. It's time to pay attention. This is not something that's going away. I don't know if it'll reach the hype. I don't know if it'll burn out like Web 3.0. But what I do know is that we're in a moment where we all need to start paying attention. AI is literally everywhere, unbeknownst to us. From whether you're going to get approved for that loan application that you applied to, whether your resume is even going to be seen by a human to evaluate, the feed you get in TikTok, the emails that are written to you, it is everywhere, it's pervasive, and the biggest tech companies and the largest dollars are all focused on this. All are focused on this now. Everyone is all in. Think of that poker game where everyone is all in. So again, we're in the very early stages of what's happening here. And I think that this moment that we have is all about generative AI, right? OpenAI, it's going to go down as one of the most brilliant marketing campaigns ever, and unintended. They didn't intend it this way. 1 month, 100 million users globally experimenting with AI. It's unbelievable. And some of the things that are happening, tools and companies and new applications are literally every day, there's scores, if not hundreds of them. So the purpose of today's session is to get some specifics, of course, but is more so to think about, hey, maybe it's not really different this time, but it's different enough that I really, really need to start paying attention and see how I, as a professional in my organization, can start using AI for my business or organizational objectives. So that's kind of my framework for discussion to start off. Erica, I'm not sure if you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for that introduction, Mitch. I'll just start off with a question that, we at Raza get all the time. Is AI going to take our job? Is AI going to displace a lot of the employees at my organization? And what we always say to that is it's going to make the people who are already really good at their jobs by way of staying on top of new technology even better. Because to your point, Mitch, it's not something that can be ignored. It's a buzzword, but it's also a reality, because every single day there are dozens of new tools going to market that leverage this AI and what's really inherent in the AI, the automation that is going to make your jobs faster and smarter. So it truly cannot be ignored, and it's something to pay attention to. And to your point about OpenAI's ChatGPT and their DALL-E, one way, and it's totally disrupting the world, is in the way of search or search engine optimization. Instead of going to Google something, or Bing for anyone who uses Bing, you're now going to a completely different place to search for much more synthesized results, as opposed to digesting the information that's presented to you in the search. That's just one way that it's changing our lives. That's why Google's kind of, rushing around to get their tool live, which it is now. And then Microsoft's changing everything. These big companies are even considering how they're going to be disrupted. So all of us need to pay attention as well.
So just a quick follow up on that. It's a super interesting point about, and people ask this all the time about, will it take my job?
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting fact. Do you know that in the year 2000, there were about 100,000 travel agents in the United States? Today, do you know how many there are?
Mm-mm.
There's about 70,000 travel agents in the United States. Now, all of us, I can guarantee you with a show of hands, who's booked a ticket in the last 6 months to take an airline flight? Probably everyone will raise their hand. And then I'll ask those people, who called a travel agent to do it? Zero. No one's going to raise their hand. There's no way we would call a travel agent to do that. But what has happened? They're now focused on other things, higher value things, corporate travel, big cruise, whatever it is. So the point is, there's a disruption and there's a realignment, and people are doing different things. But it's my view that, and I've been sort of a little bit on the fence, well, it will take jobs, it won't take jobs. I think we all have to be prepared for the fact that it will take jobs. It will. And the roles that are most vulnerable are the ones that I call the first drafters, regardless of industry. Okay. If it is legal, those first level associates that are tasked with the first draft of contracts, vulnerable. Those people in the marketing space that are writing sort of not necessarily the most creative copy, but the first drafts of some of the marketing copy, vulnerable. We've seen already examples of companies, real life companies, of not hiring hundreds of people because AI is taking over. On the customer service side, we've seen this, that where now AI is writing those customer response emails. This is super important, they are being reviewed by a human. And that's why this is super important. The first drafters are vulnerable, but what you're going to need is that second level up. You're going to need less people of those first drafters, but they're going to have different skills. And those skills are going to be more for reviewing that copy that's written, reviewing the AI, making sure it's accurate and retraining it. So I think there's going to be a massive realignment in the next few years, in my view.
Jobs specifically for people that understand AI, like query writers, like ChatGPT query writers, like people who really understand how to extract the value out of these tools.
So here's how crazy this is, okay? Here's the world we all live in, okay? Right now, we're only talking about a few months. That's like a blip in time, right? So ChatGPT came out, everyone's freaking out, oh, it's gonna take my job. And then all of a sudden you start seeing these articles and these job postings for prompt engineers, okay? Mm-hmm. Companies paying $300,000, $400,000 salaries for prompt engineers. And that was the highest, this is the most exciting topic. I'm going to become a prompt engineer. Now the trend is you don't need to be a prompt engineer because the AI is moving so fast that very soon you're not going to even need to prompt it. It can write its own prompts for itself. We're just going to need to supply it with just a little bit of information and it'll construct the prompt in the most optimal way to get the most optimal result. So the point is only to illustrate how fast things are moving. And I think that that's another super important point here, that there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of excitement, but we need to take a breath and slow down, okay? In my view, what we need to do is view AI as a tool. This is a tool just like any other tool, like our CRM, like our audience management tool, like Excel, okay? And we don't just go out and buy Excel because someone said Excel is great. We have a business or organizational problem that we're trying to solve. And this is important, that how can AI help solve my discrete business or organizational challenge that I'm trying to solve? In many cases, it can, but you need to ask that question first. Bringing AI on just to bring it on, I think, is somewhat misguided. You have to look at the specific challenges you're facing. What do I want to solve? What do I want to optimize? How can I make this more automated? How can I make this more streamlined? How can I improve it? And how can AI help me do that?
So would that be effectively where you think folks should start? If you're a media business and you just want to figure out how to start, you guys start with the challenges, the things that are difficult, the things that take a lot of time, sort of more process-oriented stuff?
Well, I mean, think about it this way. If you're an organization that has to churn out a lot of marketing copy, that's a challenge, right? I don't have enough people. I need to churn out this marketing copy, whether it's social, whether it's blog posts, whatever it may be. That's my challenge. How do I solve that problem? I can hire more people, option number one. I can repurpose some of the content I have, option number two. Hey, here's this new tool that can generate, in theory, this copy for me. I should look at AI to do that. Another perfect example is getting back to those customer service emails. I am overwhelmed and there's a delay in my customer service response because I don't have enough people to answer those questions. What can I do? I can hire more people. I can use some of these automated email responses. So there's not someone drafting these emails all the time. I can hire perhaps less number of people to review those emails before they go out. Now I've addressed my problem. I get much faster response to customers with higher quality responses. So ask the question and see how AI can perhaps be an option for one of the answers.
Right. And to that point, as far as generating relevant copy, there are tools out there that are coming on that are just going to be trained on your own data set. So it's not just about, Chat GPT getting trained on all the information throughout the internet. It's the ability to now train these tools on your information that you feed them. And so you're providing these guardrails to create, the best copy for you. And I'm sure we'll dive into those things even deeper later on.
And by the way, to follow up, it's not just the guardrails. It's unbelievable what it can do right now, right? So that and we need to think about this. For those that are of a certain age, just to put this in context of where we are in terms of the evolution. The way I view this right now, we are at the dial-up AOL stage of AI, okay? If we can remember AOL and dial-up and that sound when you connected and the speed, we thought it was all magic back then. And now when we look back on it, it's prehistoric, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where we are. We're going to look back on this moment of AI and we're going to look at this as prehistoric. And it's going to move much faster. It's taken us 30 years to get from dial-up AOL to where we are today. You're going to see massive improvements in this very quickly. But to Erica's point, I agree wholeheartedly. The key right now is you can use your data. When I talk about data, when we're talking about generative AI, I'm talking about the corpus of emails that your customer service staff has written, the corpus of publications, of content on your website that's written in a certain style, a certain format. That can be used almost in real time to produce that new original marketing or blog content, whatever it is. And that's one of the most important trends. Right now, we're seeing a lot of this copy generated from these large language models that's based on kind of this corpus of internet data. But we're going to get a lot more micro-focused and you're going to be able to, you don't have to do anything. By the way, it's not like you have to be an AI scientist. You don't have to do anything. The tools will become readily available to dump your data so it can learn your style, your language, your acronyms, right? And produce content that way.
And that kind of leads to a couple of the questions that we've gotten submitted in advance. So there's a question around how do we protect our content? And what you're describing, Mitch, is a world where we're intentionally using our own content to have the generative AI created from that, right? So, but for right now, is there a way for folks that are concerned about that, and maybe they don't want their content getting submitted and used? this way? Is there a way to protect that, or how far away are we from being able to do that?
Well, as far as it's already been used. I mean, the OpenAI models are digesting everything that's out there. Even as far as, gating it for the individual, I'm sure that everyone is aware of the content gating technologies, but even so, the RSS feeds oftentimes that power the content that is gated can still be ingested by all of these models. So it is tricky to protect it if it's open source in some way, unless you're, completely protecting it by a login.
It's a very tricky subject. I don't have the answer, but I think some observations of some recent things that have happened here. So Erica's 100% right. OpenAI went and scraped everything and anything that was available to train the models. Now, there's already lawsuits out there, particularly from some of the image companies that said, hey, you've scraped all our images to train your model, and now you're making money from our content. It's not fair, right? And there are lawsuits, and we'll see how those come up. It's interesting, just in the last few days, I'm not sure if people are following it. The White House has assigned actually the vice president to be kind of the AI czar and that's just indicative of how important people think this is. And Sam Altman, who's the head of OpenAI, is talking about copyright, right? And they're talking about all sorts of things. One, to label AI generated content. This content was created by AI. Two, to somehow come up with, and they don't have the specifics, but somehow to come up with the model or some business model where if your content was used to train the model that produced some original content, somehow you'll get copyright, somehow you'll get compensated for that. But think about this crazy thing, okay? Right now, today, I can take every Stephen King book and I can upload it as my style. And I can not only say, write a horror suspense novel, but I can say, write it in the style of Stephen King. Now, just think about that implication. Think about for all of you who spend so much time on your original content, your unique take, your unique voice. Now, all of a sudden, sure, in the past, someone could do it. Sure, someone could read all of Stephen King's books, and someone who's very talented perhaps could write a book in that style. But now we can do it on a massive, massive scale. And so there's a lot of very challenging issues that we as from a business and a societal point of view have to grapple with. I think that at least in
because technically all the stuff produced by, if you get something produced by ChatGPT or DALL-E, you can market it. I mean, you can commercialize that content. Sorry, Mitch, sorry to interrupt. But
yeah, no worries. And I think what's happened is we're in this kind of like, the way these technologies go, there's sort of ebbs and flows, and there's peaks and valleys. And right now, we're right at sort of the top of this, where the excitement level is so high that people are trying to figure out what to do with it. We're about to start kind of descending a little bit, where the challenges and the fears, again, some of this copyright stuff, are starting to come into play. But soon we're going to get to what people call kind of like the sort of Spotify acceptance, right? All of a sudden we all use Spotify, and it's just a thing. It's a great thing, and we just use it. And I do predict soon all of that AI is going to be like that. So here's another really important point I think people need to focus on. Because of the emphasis of and all the money that's going into it, all of the tools you currently use are currently integrating with AI, okay? So whether you use, let's say, an email marketing tool, right? HubSpot, for example, has already announced that they've got their email draft assistant writing tool. Google just announced an amazing thing, right? That says, help me write, right? Where you can give it an email and it'll respond to that email, pulling data from all sorts of things. So all of the tools that you are already using, CRM tools, Excel, Google Sheets, email marketing tools, marketing automation tools, all of these are already going to have built-in AI into them. So the point is, like, to adopt these things, there's not much you will have to do, because it's already going to be right there in front of you. It's how do I utilize this new feature in my existing tool to help me, once again, achieve my organizational goals.
So, Erica, I know you have a strong background in search, and I'd like to address what Greg and Matthew are asking in the chat. Is the era of search engines effectively over?
I don't think it's over yet, but I think it's going to change pretty dramatically as more and more people adopt these synthesizers, these chat GPTs, these AIs to answer their queries. I mean, I do not do nearly as many Google searches unless it's for local as I used to. Like local meaning, hey, what's the nearest dry cleaner, or something along those lines. But chat GPT, as far as answering a query of my 5-year-old the other day, why do you sometimes see seashells in the dirt in New Orleans? I mean, I went to chat GPT instead of to Google. And so something's going to change, and just watching the way all of these larger organizations are moving in response to chat GPT is validating that it will absolutely change. I mean, Google, thinking about how much of its revenues derived from paid per click, they're scared. I mean, they're fearful of what that future looks like. At least they're Google, and they have the resources to adapt and evolve. But it's something is going to shift. And when I think back to going deeper about SEO, the organization that I used to work with, which was Large Scale Digital Marketing Shop, I mean, we hand wrote meta descriptions for images and blogs. We hand wrote snippets for social posts. We hand wrote all these back-end optimizations. That AIs do that now. There's no reason that humans need to sit there and do that. So when I think about the work that was done at my last organization, it's unless people change and grow and adapt, the companies are going to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So, I agree, and I think there's a distinction we have to make. Right now, Google is the go-to for everything, right? I want an answer to something, or I want to find information about products and services. And those, while Google wants to think these are all the same, they're actually different, right? So I'm a big motorcycle enthusiast, right? I want to find a list of like companies that whatever sell motorcycle jackets. I actually like to see the list of those companies, right? But if I'm asking a question about seashells, I don't want to have to get a list of sites and have to understand which one do I need to click on to get me the answer to my question.
Right.
So, for example, Amazon tried to do that with Alexa, right? That was the first, if you think about it, AI powered. They invested and lost $10 billion, more than $10 billion there, but it didn't work out.
Is that because of their phone that they tried to make?
No, because they weren't able to monetize it, because they thought people would say, hey Alexa, what's the best, I don't know, CD player? And then people, the best CD player is XYZ, and they thought people say, okay, buy me that CD player and put it in my shopping cart. No one does that, right? What people are doing is, Alexa, what's the weather today? Today the weather is going to be 40. You can't monetize that, right? But so I think that people are still trying to figure that out. And this is the problem for publishers too, because typically it's not, yes, you may be selling things, but it's more so that the content that you produce are answers to questions as opposed to a list of items, right? And you have experts on whatever topic that may be, and you want to drive people from that search to those articles to say you're the leading expert on this. Now the problem is it might just scrape your site and give people the answer, and they're never going to get to your site. And so I do believe that it's going to change. My view is you're going to see a blended view of this. You're going to see a combination of answers and a combination of lists of resources available to you with the imagery and the links, because people still do like that, right? And here's the other thing. The other thing is, one of the reasons that AWS had some challenges with Alexa is, I'm not so sure I trust one answer, okay? What is the best so-and-so? Alexa, ChatGPT might only give you one answer. Who's to say that's the best answer? And you're going to have the same thing. You're going to have pay for play. There's going to be different models where you're going to be able to somehow, Google and Bing and all of them are going to figure out how people can pay to get their answers put in sort of text form, chat form first. That's just what's going to happen, right?
Right, it'll like spit out some sponsored content and then give you the answer. Yeah.
Exactly. Because people are always going to want to get their content first. And all of these companies, they're the middlemen. They're like, okay, you want to get your content first? Pay me. They don't understand exactly, haven't figured out how to get that transaction done, but that's going to happen in my view.
And sort of along those lines, as far as ensuring that your content is used to organically answer people's queries, there's a lot of good information out there now, or that's coming out about how AI is going to impact Google's EEAT requirements. So the expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness indicators. And I forget the first E that they just added. If anyone knows, let me shout it out or put it in the chat. But as far as what the AI implications for what Google uses to decide which content to use to answer queries, that's some knowledge that wouldn't hurt to become familiar with.
Right. And they have to figure out how to compensate people, because again, it does Google no good to produce spammy results, right? They do it now, and there's a complex way they do it of authoritative sites. We don't need to get into it right now, but they're going to have the same challenge, whether it's in list form or text form. And like, here's the answer, right? Because if all of a sudden people start viewing the results of their queries as not being valuable or accurate or good, they're just not going to use it. So everyone is incentivized, unfortunately, to do the very same thing we're doing now, but it's going to be somewhat of a different paradigm to do it within.
Right. Okay. I think Robin's question, his first question, is a good segue into the next portion of this webinar, which is to look at some tools. He's asking, how do businesses like ours use AI to either make money or save money? And certainly we're going to start with Tom showing his tool, and I feel like that's totally in the save money because it's save time, it's efficiencies, right? I mean, this is sort of where I think we can start. This is like a hands-on opportunity to just start leveraging AI. So Tom, if you want to
Sure. Thank you, Kim, and hello everybody. Good to see all of you, many who I recognize. If you don't mind, please, Kim, I'm going to turn off my video here. So if who
just
you
not
could all you all could mute your phones.
just in time to go see people, buddy.
oh boy.
Okay. Well,
I'll
try to get through this.
Okay.
This is the second company that Mitch and I were business partners. The second company that we started. The first one, some of you may know, was called Real Magnet. We started that in 2000, and Real Magnet was one of the first back then called email service providers. So back in 2000, when we started that company, you weren't able to send out broadcast emails, and you couldn't put a link in an email and have somebody click that and track it and all those things. So we were part of the first cohort of companies that brought that technology to the market. And we ran that company for 17 years. And many or some of the people on this call were actually customer of ours, and we thank you for that. And we sold the company in 2017. So we took a little time off, and then we started Contentware. And this was sort of 2.5 years ago. And the AI technology, it's nascent now, but back then it was micro nascent. So, but really, Mitch had the vision of being able to, leverage that technology that could sort of liberate marketers from laborious and mundane tasks that they have to do and free them up to do more creative and strategic things. And that really was sort of the genesis behind Contentware. And what Contentware is, it's an AI marketing platform that's customized to generate marketing content for marketing campaigns. So with Contentware, we can create campaigns, marketing campaigns for all of these different types of classes and courses, all of these different types of events, conferences, podcasts, webinars, etc., and all these lead gen materials. So for today's example, we're going to use a webinar, and this is actually a recorded webinar. So we allow you to do both live and recorded. So this is not a live event. We ask you what type of campaign you want this to be. It can be a rolling campaign or a fixed time campaign. So for this, we'll just say a fixed time campaign, and we'll start it on the 1st of June, and we will end it on the last day of June. So now we ask you about the velocity. How much content do you want in this campaign? So medium is sort of quote unquote best practices for a webinar. So we will select that, but you might be like, hey, you know what? We've been really pounding our base lately. We're going to make this a lower intensity campaign. Or, hey, you know, this is really important. We're going to make this a higher intensity campaign. So then if you want to track social media, you can use these UTM codes. Just for brevity purposes, I'm going to say no. And now we ask you for a link to the landing page. So I'm just using this as an example. We'll grab the URL here, put it in the app, grab the title. The app. And this is a webinar. And you can add hashtags here if you'd like. Now, when it comes to the campaign imagery, there's two options and they're complementary. Option number one is that you could use our imagery. We have a partnership with Shutterstock. And if you use our imagery, it's completely free of cost and fully licensed. You can also use your own imagery. And for a lot of the higher produced sort of assets like webinars and conferences, most of our customers are using that imagery. So I'll show you where in the process that you can add your own imagery, but for here, we need to, just to pass go, we need to put in a search term for content-aware. Now, you are able to have specific information about the speakers if you'd like. Again, just for brevity purposes, I'm going to say no. And you'll see that the AI is already at work here on the right side. It's rendered this page on the right here. So we'll say yes to this. So now content-aware has taken its first step, and that is to go to that page, and it's looking for an overview paragraph of this recorded webinar. So here, the task was not so difficult. It took this one paragraph. Now, there's two important dimensions of this paragraph. Number one is that it will be used in some of the campaign emails, but it will also be the basis for a lot of the AI content that's generated. So for this, I'd say, you know, this is kind of long for an email. I'm going to take this out. And this just shows you that this tool is highly customizable. So you're not locked into anything. It's you that are controlling the content, not the other way around. So you can make any types of edit that you want. And now what content-aware is doing is it's taking that paragraph, it's looking at the page, and it's applying AI to come up with marketing snippets. And these snippets will appear just in a moment here on the left side, and they will be the basis for the social media content. So you will see here the snippets. And when you look at these snippets, you don't have to worry about punctuation or grammar. We're going to take this content and transform it into social media content that's more compelling and engaging. But what you just look at these snippets and say, are these messages that I would like to see in a social media post? If the answer is yes, you leave it. If the answer is no, you can say, no, not that one. No, not that one. This one, we're going to edit a little bit. And then you will get these snippets exactly how you want them. Now, this content towards the bottom here, this is AI content. This tends to come from the page, but these were created by AI. So you'll get these snippets exactly how you want them. The next step is a bulleted list of key takeaways. So when we were doing the research on content-aware we analyzed thousands and thousands of landing pages and probably tens of thousands of emails. And it was very clear to us that a bulleted list of key takeaways is a best practice. So we wanted to incorporate that into our platform. So if you have a bulleted list on your page, we will extract it and put it here. And if you do not, we will create one for you, which is what has happened here. Again, you can make any edits that you want here. You'll get this exactly how you want it. Next step is the image. So we will serve one up to you, but you have many different options for imagery. As I mentioned, you can upload your own imagery. Here is the results of the search from our term teaching. And these are images that I've used in previous campaigns. So lots of options for the imagery. So, but we're going to stick with the one that we have. And now Contentware has everything it needs to create the campaign. It's actually creating the emails, the social media posts, and the social media ads. And it will apply it to a strategic marketing calendar designed to drive engagement and registration. So what we saw there in very short order is we just created a campaign of 67 pieces of content. You can see the distribution across the channels here. On this side, you see our recommended distribution calendar. This is fully customizable, and I'll get into that in just a moment. And now when you select one of these labels, you actually see the piece of content that we created for you. So this is our recommended LinkedIn post for the first at 9:30, all written, ready to go. Here's an email for the second, all written, ready to go.
Unbelievable.
Thank you. Now we have a campaign here. And what we want to do is you could be like, oh, you know, this is really like, I don't want to do this Facebook post. So I'm going to get rid of that one. You're able to get this side of the page exactly how you want it. Email. No, we don't want it on the 8th. We actually want this to be rescheduled, and we'll say it'll go out on 14th. So you can sort of go through and select these. Remember also at the outset, we selected a medium velocity. If this were a higher velocity, this number would be closer to 80, probably 82. And if it were a lower velocity, it'd be somewhere in the 40s. So we also, before we will set you up back here, we will give you this capability to set up all of the rules that will govern distribution of the content. So you can set all of this up, and the rules that you create here will govern the campaign. So again, lots of ways that you can get this side of the page that you wanted. Similarly, on this side, on the right side, you can go in here, and any of these sections where you see these sort of editable boxes, they are fully editable. So you can go in here and say, you know, I want to add this. Go in and save that. But what's even cooler and more helpful is that you could also go in there and be like, you know what, thought of 50 subject lines today. I can't think of another subject line today. And you can go through here, and Contentware will serve up entirely new phraseology for this specific piece of content. And it does it for each one of these boxes. So you can even go down here and say, you know what, let's see what else we got for this call to action. And you can just go here and come up with entirely new content. So again, highly customizable in just about every way in terms of the calendar, in terms of the content, you're in full control. So what we have here now is really, it's, you know, sort of alluding to what Mitch said. This is we try to get you 80 to 85% of the way there. And this is a very solid first draft. It is not 100%. It absolutely takes some hands-on and some customization. So now that we have this draft, you know, one, to be clear on what Contentware is doing is we're just creating the content. So for all of the distribution, the segmenting, and the tracking of the emails, there's a caveat there, all that is done through our sort of integration partners. So here you'll see you can integrate with individually with the specific networks. We have a Hootsuite integration if you use that. We have email integrations, and there are others coming like Marketo and Pardot. We're very close to having those. So one of the really like great value points of Contentware, obviously creating the content, creating the campaign, but it is also a scheduler. So you can schedule all of these things very far in advance, as far in advance as you want to, as long as you have the material. And when you want to do that, before you can schedule something, you'll have to approve it. So right now, if we did nothing to this campaign, nothing would be sent out because it's not approved or scheduled. So when it comes time to approve the content or schedule it, you're going to go here and take this email, for example. We're a HubSpot shop, so I'll show you how this works. You go into HubSpot and you select a template. You can put in a campaign ID if you want, and you'll submit that. And now that's going to get pushed right into HubSpot. And this is how the email integrations work. Now there's some, so you can see it just showed up right here. So that just gives you sort of an idea of how those email integrations work. There's some twists and turns with all the different ones, but essentially what we're doing is we're able to take that content that's created in Contentware and push it right into your email platform. On the social media side, when you're ready to schedule, let's say we want to schedule this LinkedIn post, we'll come here, approve and schedule. You can have multiple pages. So this integration, whenever you connect one of the integrations, you want to connect the account that is managing the pages that you want to post to. So here you'll see for this LinkedIn account, there are 3 pages that can be posted to. Here, I would select this one, I would click submit, and then it's going to sit on our side until this time and date, and then it will automatically send it off. Just a couple other just quick things I wanted to talk about was we do have many of our customers are using this for as a social media marketing platform. They have the ability to create the content in one place and post it to multiple places. That's a capability they did not have. And we also have social media tracking analytics. So that's part of the platform as well. And so, you know, really there's sort of more to Contentware that I could show you. I think the last thing I do want to show you is just back here, just to give you an idea. I mean, this is back sort of getting into the innards, but there are a couple of things I'd like to show you here. Just one thing, actually.
Just one more minute so we can get it up.
Okay, sure. So this is all of the email content. So if you go through here, you'll see all of the email you see on this side, you'll be able to see on the emails on the other side. But this is all this content is at your fingertip, and you can use it in any way that you see fit. But all of this data and information is integrated into Contentware. So that is sort of what we have, and definitely happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about this.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Sure.
This is remarkable, and it looks like it's come a long way even since you wowed us at last year's Renewed Summit. There are a lot of questions about, you know, future plans for integrations, but for now, I'd like to kick it over to Erica so she can demonstrate her tool, and along with a couple of other of her favorite tools. We had some questions about SEO. I think you have one in there for SEO too. And hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to go fast. So thank you so much, Tom. That was great. Just to kind of give you an overview of why I went to Rasa after my time at the digital marketing shop. So we did basically everything online. We did front end and back end web dev. We did everything SEO, everything paid ads. But the one thing that we didn't really touch was email, because email is such a hard thing to do in a really quality way and at scale. So when I was approached to join the Rasa team several years back, leveraging AI in order to enhance email quality while also allowing you to scale email operations, so not just send out one email a month that you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into, I was very intrigued. And so the newsletter space was ripe for disruption by AI, and we've seen quite the adoption of the product ever since, and it's been a fun ride. So enter Rasa. I'm going to do just a few slides, but I'm also going to go into the product. So just so everyone can kind of understand an overview of what we do and how we leverage AI to personalize the email experience. So instead of sending one version of an email to your 10,000 subscribers or 20,000 subscribers, what we do at Rasa is allow you to send 10,000 different versions or 20,000 different versions based on people's reading preferences and behaviors. So it's sort of like the Netflix model, right? You don't have to go take a survey to tell Netflix what you want to watch. Netflix observes your behavior in order to refine the recommendations that it gives you. So that's what we're doing in an email. Instead of same way your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed recommends the most relevant content, we do that in an email. And as far as the content ecosystem that we look to, going back to that idea of guardrails, we're looking to the ecosystem that you define. So if you say, I just want Rasa to look to my own content, the articles that I share to Twitter, or the content that I post to YouTube, or all of my blogs and articles and pieces of content that I create on my website, that could be the extent of it. A lot of our clients also leverage external content to sort of supplement the content that they produce, because as we all know, content creation can be kind of a grind, especially if you're trying to do it really well. So ultimately, we're looking to this universe that you define, and you can filter sources down. You can say, well, I want Harvard Business Review to come in, but only if it hits on publishing, as an example of a keyword or phrase. And so what you get is this pool of content that's super nutritious. And then the Rasa engine is going to say, all right, Kim gets these articles, and Tom gets these, and Erica gets these, based on reading preferences and behaviors. Also with the caveat that you can say everyone needs to see the latest blog post that we pushed out, or everyone needs to see or hear this latest podcast episode that we published, and you can sort of override the AI as much as you want. And then as far as just skipping ahead here, just to kind of share the problems that we saw for our clients, there are several. So in one way, you're elevating your brand because you're able to send out a better quality email at greater frequency because of the time savings involved in the email process. Very similar to contentware, allowing you to do more with less and do something better with even less. And so that allows you to get your brand out there in a more frequent basis, automating the newsletter process, or automating a lot of the tedious tasks that go into newsletter production, like rewriting article titles and rewriting descriptions of articles and resizing imagery. All of that's done by the AI and in the engine. And then it can be just a review by you, or a review and a couple add-ins. So similar again to that contentware process, where you're kind of tweaking. And to Mitch's point, where the first drafters, the AI takes the first stab at it, and the AI takes the first stab at what content should you include or should be part of the potential inclusion in someone's email. And then what a lot of our clients tell us, we don't sell advertising, but a lot of our clients have advertising as a really important part of their newsletter strategies. And they tell us that because they're able to, for one, send with greater frequency with less time, and so increase their ad real estate, and then also sell their ad spots for greater dollar values because they're surrounded by personalized content and they're in an AI newsletter. We do hear from many of our clients that they increase their advertising revenue since using Rasa. So with that, I'm actually going to just dive into the platform so that you can all see it firsthand. I know that's probably the best way to kind of learn and understand it. We work with a lot of professional and trade associations and a lot of people in the publishing, media, and newspaper space. This is an example of an instance. The American Marketing Association sends out a newsletter to their entire ecosystem of subscribers, both their members and their non-members. And they use it as sort of a top of funnel engagement tool. And what they've done is they've plugged in all of these relevant sources that produce content relevant to the marketing space. And in some cases, they filtered down those sources. So they might say, well, we want HubSpot blog to come in, but only specifically if it really relates to marketing. So you can see on the aggregate, all of these pieces of content that these sources have produced. And then at the granular level, you can see what are those 70 pieces that have hit on the filter criteria. And it just happens to be 70 have also not hit on the filter criteria from the sources. So you could review those as well. So you can imagine in your newsletter production, instead of hand compiling a newsletter, you're instead reviewing what's come in. So the imagery, the titles, the descriptions, and theoretically all of these articles that have hit on your filter criteria, should be great for inclusion in the newsletter, depending on who the AI picks each of them for. But there might be one or two in here that aren't great. So you could easily toggle something off. And then conversely, you can say, well, I want everyone to see this, or I want everyone to see this at the top of their newsletter. And so from there, you can imagine the newsletter process becomes a lot less time intensive. What's even more is if you want to recycle your more cornerstone content that's not time sensitive in nature, you could easily mark it as reserve and bank it in another pool and recycle it back out to your audience. So again, you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into your content. You might as well get more eyeballs on it and drive more traffic to it in an automated way. And then you can also schedule things out in advance that you want everyone to see for multiple issues in a row. So sponsored webinars, let's say it's a piece of copy that you want everyone to see. You can also make sure that those things go out for multiple days in a row. So this piece about their virtual conference on SEO is going out in every single issue of the newsletter from Monday, April 24th to Wednesday, May 17th, and they just had to put it in one time. You can also use our brand new ChatGPT integration to write copy for your newsletter. So you would go to generate text, you give it a prompt, you would ask it to maybe base it on an article. So you can see some articles that have come into the content pool. You can talk about your tone, you can talk about, how long, or you can prompt it on how long you want it to be, and then generate some copy for your newsletter and schedule it out in advance. So that's just an add-on. You could use that or not. And then in the spirit of full automation, if, for example, you wanted to just have your own internal content pulling into Rasa to qualify for the newsletter, you could completely automate it because you don't need to review your own content because you know that your own content's great, and you could even just toggle newsletters off in the future so that like over a holiday, for example, and then in that way, really automate the process. We give you all the analytics you need, opens, clicks, top topics, all the advertising reporting that you need, top sources, top articles. So all of the ads and analytics that you think an email platform would have in addition to other great add-on reports. We also basically give you an A, B, C, D, E, F, G test every single send, because you're personalizing a subject line for each individual. So our subject line is going to generate off of the top recommended article for each subscriber. And so in that way, you can imagine your open rates will increase. And then when open rates increase, oftentimes click rates increase, especially when you're personalizing content for the individual. And greater engagement in your newsletter oftentimes means greater monetization possibilities. And that's what, like I said, a lot of our clients have said as well. You can, of course, preview the newsletter, see what an example edition would look like that's about to go out, send yourself tests. So you can see that this piece is going to go to the top for everyone because they boosted it, but the rest of the content is going to fill out with what's relevant to the individual. So I think that's the majority of what I wanted to cover in the platform. We also have integrations where you can easily, that's meant to go manage settings. There are lots of things I can show you in here, but we do have quite a few integrations where you can connect your subscriber list. In the case of our HubSpot integration, you can actually send interest topics back into HubSpot in real time. So you can imagine in real time, you figure out who's most interested in marketing, and then you can fire off an automation based on those insights in real time in HubSpot, or do whatever you want, or say of this segment of my list, what are their most key interest topics in real time. So it gives you all of these opportunities. Every single newsletter send gives you an opportunity to collect interest data on your audience. A lot of these are subscriber integrations. The HubSpot one, like I said, is richer. And then we also have an open API where you can extract those topical insights and create a sort of like a custom integration depending on your CRM. So with that, Kim, do we have time to go into other tools? I don't know if we do, or
I guess not. Is there like one favorite?
I was just playing with, okay, so along the lines of meta descriptions, I was just playing with this one what's it called? I just was hovering over it, perplexity. And so what this does, so if you are oftentimes creating summaries of your articles, you can actually just navigate to any article you want with this perplexity plugin and ask it to summarize an article. And then it'll essentially just generate either, a meta description, or you could say, make it shorter. So this is a fun one. If you're doing like monotonous summary work, this could shorten that up for you. DALL-E is a really great tool for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to play with it. It does image generation. You have the rights to these images. You just have to, operate within DALL-E's policy, which is, no hateful imagery and et cetera along those lines. So if, for example, you wanted to, see green soccer ball, I'm just going off of the first thing that popped into my head. I have an 8-year-old boy who loves soccer, so I thought of a soccer ball. Let's see what we get, but you just can type in, if you're looking for imagery, you need images. There we go. This is now your image that you can use. And so there are just so many cool tools out there. And then I'll leave you with, for those of you talking about SEO, there are 2 really great ones out there. One's called Market News. The other one's called Answer the Public. If you're trying to figure out what to write about, you could put something in like dogs, and it uses AI to scour the entire internet and figure out what are the questions that people are asking as they relate to dogs. And that can give you ideas for your content generation. So there's so many tools out there. There's
like, you can send me your deck that has, and I'll include it in the follow-up that I send. Guys, thank you so much, Tom, Mitch, Erica. This was fantastic. There's a lot of questions we didn't get to. I did post your email addresses in the chat.
Oh, great.
So people can just reach out to you directly. And then there was a question, if somebody wants a demo, are those the best emails to reach out to? Sounds like a good place to start, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again so very much, everybody, for attending, for you guys for sponsoring this. It was a ton of fun. Guessing we could do this again and again and again. This is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Absolutely.
So thank you, and have a great rest of the day. And I'll be following up soon with all of the resources.